Good morning and welcome to the Closers Inner Circle podcast. I am Denise Griffitts alongside my co-host Ben Gay III, and today's episode is sponsored by the Closers, also known as the Sales Bibles by Ben Gay III. Now, these essential resources are designed to elevate your sales skills, and it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you're a seasoned pro. These are important books to have in your library. So stay tuned. Ben will share with you how you can order these game-changing books and with free shipping in a few minutes. So our topic today is mastering sales, focus in sales. Sorry about that. Don't let discre Okay. Ben, hang on. I can do this. I swear I can do this. Our topic today is,
Want me to
huh?
read the title? Don't let them distract you.
Yeah, it's too late. So I'm going to try this one more time. Our topic today is mastering focus in sales. Don't let distractions derail your success, which means we are cracking open the closers part two, as we always do. And we're exploring a crucial chapter titled Don't Let Them Distract You. And I just proved why you don't do that. So as we delve into page 43, we're reminded of a timeless truth. Things aren't always what they seem. I drank coffee and look what it's doing to me. I never drink that stuff. It's a lesson we've all encountered repeatedly, yet we often find ourselves learning it the hard way after the distraction has already taken hold. So, in this episode, Ben and I are going to unpack the importance of investigating our assumptions. And we've talked about this in other episodes and staying focused in the face of potential distractions. And we're going to explore strategies to get out in front of sales arguments that should help arm you with the tools to anticipate objections. I still can't talk and maintain control of the conversation. Ben, you're going to be doing all the talking. Once I mute, you're up. So, listen, Ben, I'm not going to even try to read the rest of this. Good morning, Ben. It's Wednesday, and it's always the highlight of my week to chat with you.
And the same with me, with you. I always enjoy many things I do during the week and the day and so on are chores, things that you have to do. Usually the one that want to do the least is the most important, etc. But Wednesday mornings, I never have that problem. I wake up and go, all right, the Denise show is at 10 o'clock this morning. I got something to look forward to.
An idiot of myself. That's always fun. See? It is. And I started to say, oh, let me start over. I thought, no, heck with it. I'm a moron some days. Today's my moron day. I'm just going to go with it. So, you mentioned in the green room a little bit ago that you have questions. And listen, everybody, we really want you to send us questions about sales, about podcasting, about anything you want answers to. And, Ben always has a whole bunch of them. So, Ben, like I said, you're up. I'm not talking no more. I'm done.
we Denise has gotten me in the habit. I'm knee deep in memo pads. They're within arm's length wherever I am in the home or the office or the car or my briefcase or whatever, because great ideas come and they go at about the same speed. So I write them down. I was just telling Denise earlier that I probably have enough notes, questions, reminders, things people have asked, and so on to last us another 10 shows. So I'll pick out the ones that came to my mind or somebody else's mind, as the case may be. One of the calls I got or email, it doesn't say where it came in, was someone asking me, do you regret uh, not doing or doing something in the past? And the answer is, are you kidding me? Uh, of course. But
Yeah, which day? I mean, do you have a day, a
yeah,
month, a year?
yeah.
Pinpoint it
Before
for me.
lunch, after
Right.
lunch.
That's exactly right.
But anyway, it got me thinking, and one is semi funny, but it was a real lesson to me, and the other one was just a matter of lessons you learn as you go along. The one that I really regret for real and we may have touched on this. I was talking to somebody about it not too long ago, was we had a bunch of younger people. Everybody was older than I was at Holiday Magic Cosmetics. They were all older than I was, even after I became head of the company. But uh, and I thought they had enough sense to, if it even crossed my mind, I thought they had enough sense to take care of themselves and save some money and so on, because we were taking people from back in those days, $500 a month at their regular job to 50,000 a month with us. And you got to, any figure I use from those days, multiply times 10 to get an idea of what it would be today in today's money. And one of the serious regrets is not bringing in a certified financial planner. I'm not sure that I even knew what a certified financial planner was at the time, but I should have found out and brought them in so that these people who went from $500 a month to $50,000 a month got to keep some of the 50. And I talk to people every day uh, from those days. I have two calls to return this morning from people from that era. And in each case, they may have gone on and done well and regained it. But as far as their holiday magic life, they made an enormous amount of money. And now we sit here years later, and most of them, almost all of them, have none of that money. It's like it didn't happen. You take somebody who, got off a milk truck making $600 a month. We took him to $360,000. Uh, and to the best of my knowledge, he's adjusted for inflation back to the milk truck days, except for fond memories and great experiences. But cash wise, I should have had a weekly mandatory class where I paid a certified financial planner to come in and show them what to do with their money and get them on a disciplined program on the occasions where I speak to younger people, college folks, high school folks, etc. If the if I look out and I see a bunch of young faces looking at me, I say, I got good news for you. Uh, Everyone in this room can be a millionaire. And I'm not saying that to inspire you. I'm just telling it's mathematical. Well, how, Mr. Gay? The way you do it is you start saving 10 to 15%, pick a number, I prefer 15, of every dime that crosses your path. I don't care if you find it on the sidewalk, it's a Christmas gift, it's earned money, whatever, of the gross, off the top, save 15% of it. And so you've got a few $1,000s saved up. Then call a certified financial planner and say, I may not look like I'm worth a lot of money now or worth your time, but I am, because I'm going to follow your instructions and so on. This is after you check them out, get referrals and so on. And then you take that money and invest it. Invest it is different from saving. You invest it, perhaps if you're not some stock trading genius, and I'm not, in index funds. Follow the S&P 500 is a great one. Follow the entire stock market is a great one. You can get more aggressive with different funds and so on, and you start putting in there, and you keep your savings account open so you're not bugging people with $10 investments. But every time you get up to a few $1,000s in the savings account, move it over to the investment account. And then read things that, like Warren Buffett has. I've learned more about business reading Warren Buffett's materials than just about anything I've ever done. And then if you do that, including 15% from the birthday check from Aunt Helen and the $25,000 bonus you got, I could even make an argument with bonuses, especially unexpected money, put it all in. And you just save and then invest and let it compound. And when I'm talking to groups who are 20, 30 years old, and sometimes younger than that, I leave the room knowing that if they listened, if they wrote it down, and if they did it, I've just created 500, 100, 500 or 100 or whatever number of people in the room, millionaires. It's just somebody, I forget who it was, it might have been Warren Buffett or J. Paul Getty, said the secret of life was compound interest. And so, as far as a
That was Warren
serious,
Buffett, I'm pretty sure.
was it?
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure it was, yeah.
yeah. If he didn't say it, I know he agrees with it, but that's the secret of life, compound interest. And it is amazing to watch work, but you move that money off the table, that becomes no touchy money. Uh, no matter how good the story, you don't take a flyer or a fling with any of that money. This money is like putting gas in a machine. The machine is running. Your job is just to fuel it, not to think, fuel it. So that's a serious regret that I had, and I haven't made it since, but I don't have the big groups I used to have. I could have told that story in front of 10 or 15,000 people at a time back in the Holiday Magic days and change not only the people in the room, but for generations, true generational wealth. So that's a huge regret. And then that got me thinking about regrets. And this is funny, when I had a lovely lady named Martha Conley, everybody knew it as Marty Conley, who ran my life. She was the gatekeeper outside my
Yeah.
office door.
Yeah,
She also,
she was your boss unofficially.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, she ran Holiday Magic
I know.
by controlling who saw me, who didn't see me, coming into the office maybe after a meeting and saying, by the way, I overheard this and overheard this. She was, Dr. Hill, Napoleon Hill, once told me, always have one or two people around you who will tell you the absolute truth. And I took out one word there, the absolute truth, no matter what, and make sure they're not punished for doing that. You may have your feelings hurt, but listen to them carefully. Well, Marty Conley was one of those people. She was, I guess, I never asked. I guess she was about my age. Very lovely lady, tough as nails, and protected me. I didn't think of it at the time, of course, but protected me like Nancy Reagan used to protect Ronald Reagan. She was fierce in making sure that what I heard was the truth, that my time wasn't wasted with time wasters type people and so on. And to a degree, she sort of ran our house. My dearly departed wife, Marcia, also deferred to Marty on some issues. So I felt like I had an official wife and an unofficial wife, and the unofficial wife had great sway over our family. So anyway, I said all this to say this. She came in the office one day and she says, all right, enough. And I said, enough what? I thought, what have I done? And she said, we've got to get, I'll leave his last name out in case he's still alive, but we got to get Chuck off the plane. And I said, well, tell him to get off the plane. What she was referring to was we bought a DC-6B, looked like a four-engine jetliner, except it was a prop plane. It had belonged to the Chicago White Sox or Red Sox or whatever, the Chicago baseball team. First class configuration, 42 first class seats, a galley, and a private cabin where four people could comfortably sit. And we bought it because William Penpatrick, the owner of the company, was a nutty about airplanes, wound up killing himself in our P-51. And he was the reason we had a fixed base operation at the airport, the Marin County Airport. We owned 40 some odd airplanes, most of them involved in flying lessons. They supposedly had a business purpose, but it was a money sucking device, the airport and his love of flying. So in the midst of that, he buys a DC-6B and says to me, okay, make good use of that. And I said, what? I don't need a DC. What, are you kidding me? Well, it's got 42 seats. It's first class. Everything about it is pristine, ready to go, and make good use of it. So what we did was we started giving away tours, fly to California, have a tour of the home office, go out to the airport, down to the big yacht. The Principi was 100 and some odd feet, and maybe get a ride in the cabin cruiser and do this and do that and really get uh, uh, indoctrinated in holiday magic, the people behind it who really ran it. And when I said give away flights, here was the genius. Thank you very much. Uh, to get on the plane, you had to have a certified or cashier's check made out to yourself for $2,500. Today it's $25,000, but it was the highest level distributorship where you could start. There was one higher, but you couldn't just buy that. So you had to have a $2,500 check made out to yourself to show to the person who was running the airplane that day. And we flew you to California, did all the stuff I just talked about, plus, and then we flew you back home. Somewhere during those times, we anticipated perhaps you would turn over the check and become a distributor. It's called a master distributor. And I think I can say this with a clear conscience, although I wouldn't testify to it in court. I think we got every check that ever entered that plane. Now, sometimes it was for a couple, they were joining the business. Sometimes it was for an individual. So as many as 42 $2,500 checks, make that 25,000, 42, and as few as 21. I don't think that ever happened to us. Uh, and then I assigned we had vice president of the Southeast, vice president of the Northeast, vice president, whatever, all the areas, the 4 or 5 areas in the country. We also put a vice president of the DC-6 on the plane, and his or her job, although I think it was always a him, was to greet them at the door, make sure they were turned over to the proper people in California, gather them back up, fly them home, and sit in that little cabin answering questions for individuals, collect the money, finish off the sales. To that assignment, we sent Chuck, filled in the blank, and said, stay on the plane and so on. Well, for some reason, he thought that was beneath his dignity. I would have thought it would be like going on a bird hunt where the birds are tied up. You probably have a lot of successes just because of the setup. I consider the DC-6 a flying closing machine. If you got on that plane with your check, the only way to get on the plane, we were going to get the check. You were going to be happy. We were going to be happy. And nobody had that closing rate out in any of the regions. So I put Chuck on that plane because it was so easy. And he wasn't one of our strongest people. I couldn't give him a region of the country and expect anything to happen. And so he would get off the plane and I'd hear, Chuck is here in Los Angeles or Chuck is here in Atlanta. And I'd say, why is Chuck? He's supposed to be flying around on that plane. And well, he's picking up people, but he came in a few days early and so on. So the next time he was in the office, I called him in. Marty happened to be in the office, and I said, Chuck, being on that plane is a job requirement. Do not get off the airplane. They don't need you in Atlanta. They don't need you in Detroit. They don't need you in Chicago. Stay on that plane. And that now is not a suggestion, it's a job requirement. If you get off the plane, you're fired. You got that? Yes, sir. So 6 months later, roughly, Marty comes in my office and says, enough. I'm supposed to be straight with you, so and so. And I said, well, I'll stop doing whatever it is. What am I doing? She said, well, you told Chuck to get on that plane 6 months ago and not to get off. And I said, okay. And she said, well, he probably sneaks off occasionally to get a shower over in the hangar. But except for that, he hasn't gotten off the plane in 6 months. His wife brings him underwear and fresh clothes and so on. I said, no, I meant don't get off the plane to go do something else. It didn't mean between trips, which would be 4 or 5 days between a trip. He had to stay on the plane. She said, well,
Have he
I
didn't have
was
sense
here
enough
when you,
to ask you to,
yeah.
flesh that out for him?
Apparently not,
Oh
because
my
she said, I
gosh.
I said, I'm not sure I said that. She said, I'm sure. I was here when you told him. You said, don't get off the plane. And I'm sure he showered. The plane didn't have a shower on it. I said, she said, except for showering, which I'm sure he must have snuck off and done occasionally at the hangar, right there beside the wingtip. He hasn't been off that plane in 6 months. And I said, did I use my most forceful voice?
So this was somebody without critical thinking skills.
Apparently, you'd have thought maybe
Oh,
he might have
gee.
phoned in and said, can I get off between people
Yeah.
flying out in the 2 or 3 days they're in San Rafael and then
Or
load,
his wife would have called and said, "What the heck?" Well, she may have liked it. I don't know. Let me just
yeah, it's
stop
entirely
right there.
possible this was a
If he was
6 month.
that stupid, she's probably go, "Thank you for the break."
So anyway, I learned one, it's sort of a funny story about mistakes I made, and two, it's a good story about making sure your instructions are clear and that both of you understand it. I had no intention of banning someone to an airplane for 6 months. The crews changed in that period of time. I doubt that we had all the same cabin attendants. I started to say stewardesses, forgive me, but back then they were stewardesses. I'm not sure we had the same crew pilot, co-pilot, or anybody. The only constant on the plane was Chuck as he flew merrily through the
Oh,
air of.
jeez.
But there's
How
another
did you get
lesson.
him off the plane, though? I need to know. Did you sit him
I
down
think
and
I
say,
called.
"Chuck, let's
I
talk
think I
about
called
this"?
Marty. I think I buzzed Marty after I thought about it for a minute and said, "Tell him he can get off the plane. He can't do anything else in the company, but when the plane has prospects on it, that's when I want him on it." But virtually, and I swear to you, I don't know of one we missed, 42 buying units a week, roughly, for several years, and we never missed one. It was a closing machine. You walk into a first class airplane, you're greeted by beautiful women in beautiful clothing, sharp pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer. Everything was perfect. You're treated like a king. If you have any questions, you go to a private cabin, which most of them didn't know planes had, never mind hadn't been in one. And we got everybody. It was I've often thought, God, I wish I was doing something where I could get a plane like that. It wouldn't be a DC-6 nowadays. It would get something more modern and faster. But get something like that where everybody that walks in is closed on big ticket sales,
Right.
closed.
And
So
I'll bet you right now people are writing things down. They're listening, going, "Oh, I think Ben just gave me a terrific idea." But I
well, I'm
wanted to
telling
go,
you,
yeah, it's amazing because honestly, if you're already interested and you walk in there, you're interested enough or convinced enough that you went out and you got the cashier's check for yourself. You know what's happening. You're not walking in blind. You know you're going to be sold, but you're there voluntarily and willingly, and you've got the money to prove that you are enormously interested. How can you not close?
yeah, it sort of reminds me of, I brag all the time about my 86% closing rate, which every time I have somebody check it, that's almost exactly what it is. And then we open the National Communication Center with our job requirements were you had to be able to fog up a mirror, speak English, and write it down. When we first
Right.
started, it wasn't on computer, it was on pads. You know, you wrote the message down or the order down or whatever and turned it in. Uh, and I don't mean to talk down about those people. They were wonderful people, but the truth was, if you could get to the office to apply for the job, you got the job. And suddenly they were talking about 100% closing ratio. And I'm thinking, I'm at 86. These ladies, many of them in house coats, you know, are closing at 100. Well, you just laid out the secret. The secret was the National Communication Center was we had outgoing units and people made calls and a direct mail unit and so on. But most of the business, which was about towards the last few years, I remember the figure, We took in 86,000 phone calls a day in a 24-hour period. And assuming that was the case the whole time it was open, it's really not, because in the early days it was slow, but towards the end it was more than that. We talked to 288 million people over that period of time at the National Communication Center with a closing rate of about 100%. The difference being they'd seen the ad, or some friend of theirs had told them about it, or the busiest day in our history, the day Elvis died. And we had three companies running Elvis type promotions, records, whatever. And that almost blew out the phone system in the Sacramento area. And I was at the country club having lunch, and Lou, the head lady, the head waitress, came over and said, "Ben, you got a problem at the office. You got to get over there." Well, the problem at the office was Elvis had died and the phones exploded with people buying Elvis material. So 88,000 was about normal, but low for some days and high for the early days. 288 million people called in. We sold virtually all of them something, but it was because, as you just said, they'd already been sold, pre-sold, or had their curiosity piqued. They weren't calling in saying, "Hi, sell me on buying the whatever." They'd already made that decision. So you're right. We had opportunity meetings in all the various cities, and the DC-6 flew in and out of every major city in the United States over a period of time on a regular basis. And but they'd been to an opportunity meeting. They understood there was a lot of money being made. They were by that time convinced the product was well made, and so on. Added to, when they got to California, we took them to the manufacturing facility. They saw the strawberry frappe cleansing cream being made. They talked to the chemist who put it together and so on. So they just got jacked up, jacked up, jacked up. And I assume most of them turned in the check before they got back on the plane. But if not, Chuck sat in the cabin and just collected the checks. There was no catch. No, you got to do this, you got to do that. We just relied on the process, which reminds me of what you and I talk about all the time, systems. It was not unlike an assembly line putting together automobiles. First, you went to the opportunity meeting, then you perhaps went to a training class to see the cosmetics being applied by professional or experienced people. Then you went here, then you went here, then you got on the plane, then you got the tour, then you got back on the plane. And by that time, we had your money, which was good for us, of course, but it was also good for you because people like me put up $91.41 and turned it into millions of dollars. And it's the reason you and I are talking today, because my $91.41 check cleared the bank. As a result of seeing an ad and being sent through the process. But that was the process at its best that I've ever seen. It was literally a closing machine. And if you some modern version of that, those of you who are listening can set up or understand, get the systems in place, and then you start feeding them through. One more quick one, and I can finish up this entire sheet. I have many, but this entire sheet is credibility, key to success in selling. Credibility. You build it uh, over time, but you can build it quickly. I'm always saying people buy from people they know, like, trust, and with whom they feel safe. And they go, "Yeah, but you've been at this 40, 50 years. You got that going for you." Well, here's the secret. You can establish that in 5 or 10 minutes, get stronger over time.
Way. You really can.
But
I've done it. You've done it. The people we know well have done it because, and I hate this word, it's overused, but we're authentic. We're not trying to
yes,
blow smoke. We're telling you exactly what's going to happen, what we bring to the table, and you can take it or not. We're not going to bother you. We're not going to say, "Well, hey, I just laid out the best thing ever." We're there to help you. Our job as salespeople is to actually help you. And I think that's where a lot of it gets lost.
absolutely. and not only help you for all the good reasons, to help you because it's good for business. They come back. If they're treated properly and not screwed over, they come back, which feeds perfectly into this thing about Nolan Bush, a friend of mine. In 19, I'm making up numbers because I'm not positive, but in 65, 66, 67, certainly within the first 2 years of me joining the business, a friend of mine, Merle Frazier, called me and said, I've got a scheduled meeting in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm not going to be able to get there. 500 people. I'll make it worth your while. That he never gave a dollar amount, nor did he ever pay a dollar amount. Now that I think about it, but would you hold a meeting?
But
So
he
Rucker and
listens
I,
to this podcast, so you can now remind him.
yeah, send the money, Merle. Uh, but Rucker and I hopped, Jimmy Rucker, the greatest salesman I ever personally worked with, hopped in our brand new Cadillac. We said we had two and they were identical. The truth is we had one in the beginning, and whoever had the best prospect got to use it. So we hopped into our two Cadillacs disguised as one and drove to
I love
Jackson,
that.
Mississippi. Cute story. Standing outside the Americana Hotel in Atlanta one day, I'm talking to an older, wiser man. He reminded me of my father. That, I'm in my 20s. My father's in his, by then, 50s, I'm guessing. And they had a look about them. A man in the 50s or 60s, they dressed well. They had a little gray at the fore. So I was talking to him, and the car pulls up. He said, I really like that. What is that? And I said, it's a brand new Cadillac Fleetwood, four doors, as you can see. And I said, we keep in mind, older, wiser. I said, Rucker and I each got one so we wouldn't have to argue about who had the best car and so on. They're identical. Same radio, same this, same air conditioning, same power window. Everything is identical. And he said this wasn't the first time he'd seen the car, even the license tag. And my heart sank. I forgot to get two different license tags for it.
Somebody's
But
paying attention. You think you're invisible until you know you're not.
exactly, this wasn't his first rodeo. I can still see his suit and everything about him when he said, down to the license tag. So anyway, we get in the two Cadillacs disguised as one and race to Jackson, Mississippi. I was the front man. I go down to the locker room. It was a gymnasium, 500 chairs set up to change into my suit. It was a bad storm outside, and we looked like we'd been rode hard and put away wet. And I said, Rucker, you just make sure everything's okay. I'll get change. About the time I'm tying my tie, he comes down and he says, he's ready. And I said, oh, good. What do you mean he's ready? Well, it turned out he underestimated the crowd. There were two uh, people there. I guess one was in the bathroom when Rucker did his head count. He only saw one. So I come back up, walk up the side, and there sits a sea of 500 chairs. 500 empty chairs looks more than 500 chairs with people in them, and two people sitting on the front row, Winston Hoffman and Nolan Bush, it turned out. So I looked around and I said, look, I only know this by script. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pretend like all 500 people are here and give it to you the way it's supposed to be given. They said, not a problem. I said, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, even though there wasn't a lady anywhere within a mile. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ben Gay. I'm a general distributor with Holiday Magic, blah, 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 and went on with my 37-minute word for word presentation, showed the film. Film ends with turn to the person who brought you here to see how you can get started in Holiday Magic, ask how you can get started in Holiday Magic, and so on. And then whoever brought you is supposed to start drawing circles and explaining it again on script. So I went down and did that. And I think they both bought, well, I know they did from history later. I didn't know it at the time, but it wasn't my money. It was Merle Frazier's money. I was just glad to get the hell out of there. Fast forward, say probably 10 years or so, standing in front of a room in our little town. in our training room, and people have been brought in, not unlike the DC-6, except they came in commercially and spent several days with us in the office, getting a tour, meeting the people, going to the manufacturing facilities, and so on. And the object of the game was to close them on a package that with it net after a 65% discount came to $24,625.13. It was still about $2,500 adjusted for inflation, but 24,625.13. So I get up in front of the room and I said, look, here's how this works so you all understand the game. We brought you out here to get you involved in the business and so on. At the end of anytime during the seminar, but at the end of it on the last day, we're going to ask you for a check for 24,625.13 because you've all been pre-qualified. We know who you are. You each have a representative working with you and so on, and you've been recommended and approved. So we'd like to get on with the presentation, and we'll show you everything about the business, and we'll answer any question. And this guy raises his hand in the back of the room. He says, Mr. Gay. I said, yes. He said, I can tell that you don't recognize me. And he didn't know it then. I didn't even know the name. I have face blindness. I haven't recognized an ex-wife one time after about a 10-minute conversation with her when she asked me to guess who she was. And she was a
For our
former wife.
audience, that did make it into the show. I'll find it and put it out there because I laughed. I muted you, but I was laughing so hard I needed to grab my Tums bottle. I upset my own stomach. Okay, keep going.
So he said, I noticed you didn't recognize me or something. We played it off like because there were 50 people in the room. The truth is, I wouldn't have recognized him anyway because I have face blindness. I didn't know it had a name at the time. I thought I was just stupid. So anyway, he stands up and he said, I was told what the deal was. So, and he comes forward and he says, I'm handing Mr. Gay a check for $24,625.13. Although I don't really know what I'm buying. My lady friend is the one who's been dealing with them. But, and then he turns around and said, let me tell you why. And I'm making up dates, but he says, 15 years ago in Jackson, Mississippi, on a stormy night, this man drove from Atlanta, Georgia, promising to give a meeting to 500 people. There were two of us there. He gave the meeting beginning to end as if there were 500 there. He then put me back in touch with my sponsor, Merle Frazier, and I was treated wonderfully, blah, blah, blah. So it was $2,500 then. It's 24,625.13. I'm in, hands me the check and says, now tell me what I bought, and walks back to his chair. Now, the reason that story came to my mind yesterday, and I added it to my
Absolute
notes.
credibility.
Yeah, credibility is it. I did what I said the first time. He was confident I would do what I said the second time. And in the meantime, from when he gave the first check in Jackson, Mississippi, I'd become president of the company. So he had seen me in action doing other things for several years. And I was fortunately doing what I said I would do. So that's how come he handed me the almost $25,000. I said all that to say this. I was talking to him yesterday, and he said, Ben, do you know how long we've been doing business? And I said, and we were doing a business deal. And I said, not really, although I could figure it out because I've told the story of our meeting so many times. He said, 58 years. And there's never been a breach in our relationship. There's been times when we didn't see or talk to each other just because we were doing other things.
Right.
58 years. And that's all based on the night you walked into an empty gymnasium in Jackson, Mississippi. Then it's the way you treated me after that. Then it's the way it was when I joined National Toll-Free Marketing, which was part of the National Communication Center. And I got treated well there, and I'm here. So there's the relationship was built in less than an hour. the plan, doing what I said, the plan presentation, showing the movie, closing him on joining the business. Our relationship was locked in then. I'm still enjoying the benefits of doing that meeting almost 60 years later. So uh,
Go ahead. I'm
figure
sorry.
out a way to be credible,
Yeah.
have integrity, and make sure that they don't miss it. I'm not real shy about pointing out when I'm on time for a meeting. Oh, look at my watch and say I'm 5 minutes early. I was afraid I was going to be late. I want it locked in their brain. I said I'd be here at this time. I'm here 5 minutes early. Uh, I'm pleasantly surprised to tell you that although I told you your shipment would be there Friday and it's just Wednesday, it's here 2 days early. And then I'll kid with them, say, make a note. I want you to trust me in the future. Make a note. So you get
Right.
known for things like that. So build credibility and trade on it. People say, I give without hope of getting back. Well, if that's true, I'm sure there are people like that. Uh, but I give and do because I know that what I hand out comes back tenfold, yea, 20-fold, yea, 100-fold, it says in the Bible somewhere. I'm paraphrasing. When I say it may not come back from that person today as a specific result of what I'm doing today, but it always comes back. I'm polite to a fault to servers. I look for something to compliment about everybody I meet. It's almost a game. And it's like throwing seed on the ground. The master sower talked about in the Bible. Some throw lands on rocky ground, some lands on fertile ground, whatever. But total, what you hand out comes back tenfold minimum. So make sure you're throwing a lot of those positive seeds out there. Some will come back instantly. Some may come back 25 years later. One of my favorite phrases that I hear frequently, I'm paraphrasing, is, Mr. Gay, you don't remember me, but 25 years ago in Dallas, you said, or you did, or something. I haven't been sitting around waiting for that ungrateful SOB in the fourth row in the yellow shirt to pay me back for the last 25 years. Don't remember the meeting, don't remember the company I was working for, don't remember any part of it. But I do know why he's saying that to me. He's saying that to me because what you hand out comes back tenfold. Sometimes it takes 25 years, but it comes back. So that's a little encouragement for struggling on. And I got lots more notes from this week, but I'll stop there and I'll have something to talk about next time.
Oh, we always have plenty to talk about. What you didn't have a chance to do is tell people where they can purchase their own copies of the closers books.
Oh, yes. Let's put some more good seeds out there. If you want to participate in become a member of the Closers family, uh, we have it for you with special pricing, free shipping, signed by me, and dated the day you buy it at a special website. Get out your pens and go to stores, STORES dot ebay dot com / I would say /, but I'm told that that's not necessary, / run, this is all one word, Ronzoni Books, RONZONE Books, BOOKS, Ronzoni Books. And that's the bet. You can get it on Amazon and all sorts of places, but they may be signed, but they won't be dated. They don't come with an unconditional lifetime and no questions asked money back guarantee. That's only available at stores.ebay.com / Ronzoni Books. And then if you want to reach me personally about my mentoring program, or to make a comment or a question that you'll hear on a future podcast with Denise and me, just shoot me an email. BFG3, like Benjamin Franklin Gay the third, BFG, the numeral 3, uh, at After all these years, for a split second, I forgot the email.
I did that
BFG3.
this morning at DirectCon. I had to call my bank this morning. She said, "What's your address?" And I went, and I
I
literally
hardly
had to,
ever write to
I
myself.
know, I literally had my checkbook in my hand. I went, I can read it to you. Here it is. It was embarrassing.
But when you're sitting down with a lady that pre-sees you before you see your doctor or whatever, they always say, "Now let's go over your stuff." I said, "I lead a very dull life. Nothing has changed. If you have it in that computer, it's accurate. So all I have to do is my birthday, 8/22/42, and we're done." But the email is BFG3 at directcon, DIRECTCON.net. And just make you comment, remind me of a story. I'm beginning to feel like that drummer I told you about with Three Dog Night. I met him on an airplane, and somebody had just asked me to sign a book, recognized me. And so when I sat down next to him, he said, "Are you in show business?" I said, "Well, sort of. I'm a professional speaker. That's show business for ugly people." And he said, "Oh, I thought so. I know the look." And I said, "What do you do?" He said, "Well, I play in an old rock and roll band." And he said, "Maybe you've heard of him." I said, "Who is it?" He said, "Three Dog Night. He's been their drummer for like 40 years or something." So mainly we talked about tax credits and investments and so on. I said, when we get off the plane and people said, "Did you meet anybody?" I'm going to tell them I met you and Three Dog Night. And I'm going to tell them the rest of the band was there. I think most of them. I said, "I'm going to tell them you got drunk, got naked, and ran up and down the aisle. I'm not telling anyone I flew across the country with Three Dog Night's drummer and talked about taxes." And he said, "Deal, I'd appreciate it." So then I said, "Let me ask you something. Do you play at your, if I, on the rare occasion where I've been with live musicians who were famous, um, I want to hear what they're famous for, sung exactly like they sung or performed it in the beginning. I don't want to hear their new version because they're tired of playing it or whatever. Do it exactly." So I said to him, "Do you play any original stuff, or do you just do Three Dog Night? I do Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog or whatever the song is." And I named two or three of them. And he said, "Oh yeah, we have to do original stuff. The audience has to go to the bathroom."
One thing
I'm waiting for the giggle. That's sort of funny.
I said, oh, I get that. I dislike going to concerts, number one, because I'm an introvert and claustrophobic comes with that. And I hate hearing music that I've heard forever and ever, amen, that sounds nothing at all like it should sound. I get
That
lost.
they're
And I'm
tired of
like, what
singing
the
it.
heck was that? And I'm looking at my friend going, what song was that? We're there because we like what you did, not what you're going to
Did
do today.
DID, yeah. Don't give
Yeah.
me your new version. I've seen very few concerts in my life. In fact, concert, an arena type thing, never. But in Las Vegas, we've rent out
You get
entire
pushed around.
rooms. Yeah, it just has no interest to me. Um, but I took a group to see the Dean Martin show in Las Vegas and got the seat, got the table that the end of it is pushed right up against the stage under the microphone. And I'm guessing there were 15 or 20 people with me. And Dean Martin comes out. We've all seen him on television, handsome guy in his prime. He was really a good looking devil. And I wasn't a big Dean Martin fan other than I grew up watching him and I knew some of his songs, Volare and so on. And he comes out, he didn't sing a complete song from his songbook at all, ever, the whole show. And he bitched about young people who, with no talent, are getting millions of dollars while he's working the lounge at the Sands. So it was horrible. And his tuxedo shined almost like a neon thing because it had been pressed one too many times and needed replacing a couple of years before I saw him. And somewhere along the only reason I didn't get up was as a speaker, I'm not going to stand up with 20 people right under the microphone of a fellow performer and walk out. I thought that would be terribly bad taste. But at an intermission, the head waiter or whatever he was, maitre d', came over and said, "Mr. Gay, is everything okay? You having a good time?" I said, "I'm dying to get out of here." And he said, "Now you know the old Las Vegas saying." And I said, "What is that?" And he said, 2 million people have seen the Dean Martin show, but nobody's seen it twice. And I said, "Well, you can put me on that list
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I will
It's
never be back."
and I've done that several times with different concerts. It's like, I don't even know what y'all are doing, but this is terrible. So I'm not coming back. But listen, we're running out of time and we didn't even
Well,
open up page 43. So we will definitely do that next time.
fair enough.
We're just gossiping. What's up? What else can you share? We've got about, I'm going to say about 8 more minutes.
Okay, do it this way. Tell them how to reach you, uh, like you were kind enough to do for me, and tell them how the closers part 4 is coming along. Uh, Most of you probably know Denise has graced us with her authorship and is close to finishing up the closers part 4.
I'm
Go.
so excited about this, and let me tell the true story. I was not gracing anybody. I was told by Mr. Ben Gay the third that I was going to write this book, and I said, "Okay." And that's where it went, and that's where it stayed. But I'm having the best time writing this book, and every time I think I've got it and I'm done, so this has to go in there because this is about podcasting. It's about getting your voice heard. It's about marketing. It's about sales. It's very much part of the closers books. It's not, what the heck is she talking about? This is not about sales. It very much is. And to me, podcasting is marketing 101. Get your voice heard, get out there, whether you're the host, whether you're the guest, whatever it is that you're talking about, get it out there. You can do it. I did it. I did it 16 years ago. Nobody taught me how to do anything because it was brand new at the time. In fact, and I think I've shared this before, but the first podcast I was on, I didn't even know it was a podcast. I thought we were just recording, an article that would be written and placed in a magazine or wherever it was supposed to go. And I got a link and she said, "Hey, here it is." And I said, "Here, what is?" And I went and I listened to it. And I've said this before too. I heard it and went, "Oh, geez, I hate the sound of my own voice. So don't let that stop you. Just don't." But to me, I heard my own voice and I did what we call in the Deep South a whole body frisson. I just shuddered from head to toe because to me, I sound like I'm waiting to hear myself saying, "Happy birthday, Mr. President." I sound ridiculous. Did it stop me? No. And honestly, I heard that. I called her. I said, "What the heck was that?" And I was a podcaster the next day, and I haven't stopped for 16 years. So
And
you
you
can
do a
do it.
magnificent job. You're so good at what you do as a host, hitchhiking on your story. The first podcast you and I did together, I didn't think it was being recorded. I thought we were talking about me joining you on a podcast or two at some time in the future. And then you went into your wrap up, and I thought, God, I wonder if that was it. And we did our first podcast, and I didn't know that's how good you are.
I got right after that one. This was many years ago now. A very dear friend of mine, she worked with Tony Robbins for many years. She was kind of his right-hand person. She was content creator. She was pretty much always at the back of the stage with him. And I get a phone call at 9 o'clock at night. And if you know me, if you call at 9 o'clock at night, someone has died or your house is on fire. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the only two acceptable reasons to call me at 9. And she said, Denise, I'm walking the dogs and I'm listening to you and Ben Gay the third. She said that was the most comforting conversation I've ever had. Or ever listened to. She said it was like listening to two old friends sitting in front of a roaring fire with a brandy snifter. And I went, really? So, and you and I have been, very dear friends ever since. So thank you.
Well, you are excellent at what you do, and I can't wait to have the book in my hand. I've read huge chunks of it, but I can't wait to actually hold the book, and the spot where it's going on my desk is already reserved. There's a piece of yellow paper right there for the closers part
Uh,
4. And yesterday we committed to the closers part 7. 6, as you know, is being written by Randy Chafee and Wes Wyatt.
right, right.
And then Mo Nowat's one of the top business consultants, I guess, in the world, but in Europe, he's famous, has committed to writing the closers part 7. So it's getting close. My goal is to live long enough to hold the closers part 25 in my hand if I can find that many talented people to contribute.
I've had actually, now that you mention it, I've had several people say, Denise, you really ought to write a closers for the podcast guests that you've had. Because listen, I'm telling you, so many of the people that come on this show, they become my mentors. No question about it. You have been my mentor forever. And I've got their books in here. I've got 3 bookcases just chock full of their books. And some of the stories are fascinating. In some cases, they're heartbreaking. And I'm really thinking that at some point I'll say, Ben, can I make another book? And it'll be about these people.
Yeah, I'm having a senior moment. Rob Anspach,
Right, right.
he's published 20, 30 books, whatever, and several of them are from the interviews he does. I mean, basically, he just transcribed it and stuck it in a book. And if they pick the people right, they're excellent. They're really enjoyable. So that would be a great project for you.
And I get to meet people from all over the world, literally.
Yep.
I'm not going to meet you in the, local Walmarts. It's not going to happen. So this is how I get my voice heard. And by extension, I get your voice heard at the same time. It's a win-win for me.
Yep.
We are concluding, and I don't think, did I share how to find me? I don't think I did.
No.
Okay. I also have, you're talking about your mentoring program. I also have a podcast mentoring program, and I'm starting a sponsorship program where you can have your sponsor be a sponsor on this podcast or on your Partner in Success Radio podcast. So just get in touch with me. I'm easy to locate. It's info at mail@yourofficeontheweb.com, or you can call me toll free 888-719-6711. Again, that is 888-719-6711, and we can chat. So everybody, as we conclude another episode of the Closers Inner Circle podcast, Ben and I really want to express our sincere gratitude for your support. Your engagement keeps this podcast thriving and growing, and we hope that you found today's discussion both insightful and inspiring and fun. We have a lot of fun, can you tell? And we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. So, Ben, we will actually open up next week on page 43, and we might actually get some of that read. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, no
Hope,
promises.
hope springs eternal.
But we have so much fun. And I've shared this with you before. The books are fascinating. And one of the reasons I keep saying, get the books, follow along with this, because you can learn with us. But Ben's stories are why I'm here. We can talk about nothing but his stories, and I'm all happy.
Well, I appreciate that. I've been blessed to lead an interesting life, and I've got a pretty good memory. In fact, while you were saying that, I thought got to tell them about the Apollo days when I was attitude coach for Apollo 15, 16, and 17, and some of the funny behind the scenes stuff. But that'll be several weeks from now because we still have notes from today.
Yeah, well, write it down.
I did.
Write it down. So, Well, listen, everybody, thank you so much. And we will see you next week, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you.